Okay guys, today we have a car. It might not be very special, I admit, and I hope that's not insulting, but it is going to be one of my personal favorites, and I would genuinely love to own this car. This is a VG. In the late 80s, Holden was working on a new ute. The last ute that they had before that, 6 years earlier, was the WB. So there was a big change from that to this, which we'll talk through as I'm driving along. As you can see, this one is the 5-speed manual, not 6. This one is an S-Pack, so it has the same, you know, all of these red piping seats and the door cards. We also have a tacho. All of these are blanked because it's not, you know, Bellina or Calais or whatever. We have windy windows. What else can I tell you about it before I jump out? Interior is pretty good in this one. It has had a bit of a tidy up. I do really like this rail that goes at the back here. Headlining is really good in this car. And there's a little pocket there. Oh, I've just noticed there's no pocket on this one, like my ute. That's interesting. But overall, pretty good nick. All these are in great nick. So if you guys aren't aware, these ones are based completely on the VN, but with the wheelbase of the wagon. So if you have a look there, this one's in a pretty good color. It's like this baby blue, but I want to make it clear, this one is quite patinaed. It is like an ex-farm ute that has been brought back to life. So underneath all the paint and underneath everything, it's actually very good. But it's a very honest car. Even though the paint might not be the best, she is honest. And it's reasonably straight. There is a little scrape on one side, but it's a good car. You know, it's even still got its standard original exhaust, which is pretty cool. The old ute. Now, this was a big departure for Holden, and it was a brand new body, and they carried this all the way through from the late 90s, which this one is, the very first one, to the early 2000s. And you could get them in V6, you could get them in V8, the Holden 5-litre, or the V6, and you could get them in auto or manual. Now this one is obviously a 5-speed manual and a V6. So if we go along here, now this one is the first V6 they had. They did have another one later in the VS's, but this is the 3800. Now this one is a Series 2. So it doesn't have that steel pipe that goes at the back, and it has the newer coil pack. But pretty cool car, guys. Like, it actually goes shockingly well. Really, really does. Now, they didn't make a ton of these utes in the first place. I think there was only about 5,000, something like that. Wasn't a ton of them. And these, in rough nick, you know, are not really worth a lot of money. But if you find a really tidy 5-litre 5-speed VG, that's a good dollar car now. And after this, they had the VP. They pretty much just cycled through the front ends up until VS. Now, if you guys following along the channel, you know that I actually have a Series 3 VS ute. And yeah, you could get them with tarp, or you could get them with the hard lid. This one obviously has the tarp. This one is a Tough Tonners one. But yeah, pretty, you know, it's an honest car. It's an honest car, even though it's not immaculate. She is very honest. I don't believe it's ever done a skid in its life. Which is one of the reasons why good ones of these are so hard to find. The other thing that I actually do like about it is... Oh. There we go. Better turn that music off.
Discover your...
The other thing I like about it, it's got its stock exhaust. How cool is that? Now, there's our little mirror. Now we have our manual adjustments, our radio, everything works in this car. I haven't tested the aircon actually. There's probably a chance that that doesn't work. But these are actually really fun to drive. Now my ute regrettably is an auto, and this one being the manual is a real treat. And one of my best mates had one of these back in the day. And I actually got a funny story about the VG. He had one of these back in the day. It was $1,000, 5-speed manual, and I was sitting in the passenger seat and I put my seatbelt on, and as I clicked it in and I put a bit of tension on it, the whole seatbelt assembly came out of the car. Just VN things. But yeah, these are hard to find now. Like, they're all knackered. Again, you could get them in the 5-speed manual, which this is. You could get them in a T-bar auto, or you could get them column with a bench seat. And some of the bench seats you could get in vinyl, or you could get like a light brown tan. Those are pretty rare. The most common by far is this interior trim color. Yeah, she's a real good old girl, this thing. Little workhorse. Most of these cars, if they haven't been touched by P-platers, this is the kind of condition that I would expect these would be in. But these seats have had a tidy up, so yeah, it's a really good old girl. I will do a 0 to 100 at some stage, but I just want to let it warm up a little bit before I do that. But yeah, this was a big car back in the day, because Holden hadn't released a new Ute since the WB, which was like 6 years. So before that, as you can probably tell, this VG, hopefully I don't say VN too many times, but it's, you know, it's a VN Ute pretty much. This VG is, yeah, she's a little bit bouncy because it's been lowered, but but yeah, this was a big Ute for Holden at the time. Not only was Holden competing it internally with their previous Ute, the WB, which, you know, looking at facts and figures, this is a much better car. Fuel injected, aircon is standard, power steering is standard, all of that kind of stuff. But also, this was competing against the Falcon Ute, the XF. That car was good for its time. However, comparing it to this was not really fair, because on Ford they had 2 models, and the GLS, I think it was the GLS, and it had power steering as standard and stuff, and it had all of the same stuff that this car had as standard. But the biggest difference was that this was fuel injected and that one was still carburetted, and this was available in a 5-litre V8, which the Falcon Ute wasn't. Falcon Ute was also, again, I'm not bashing the Falcon Ute, they're good cars, but for its time, when it's compared to this, I think that this, you know, in 1990, if you're walking in the dealership, this was the better Ute, if you're talking facts and figures. So, really cool car. You know, the other thing as well that I wanted to mention is that it's much better on fuel than the Falcon Ute. And one of the reasons these are so hard, again, I'm not going to do it, but one of the reasons these are so hard to find good ones now is because these cars have been used and abused, and within their own cult following, extremely desirable to find one like this, and just used for doing burnouts, doing skids. And there would have been fantastic ones of these that have just been parted out and wrecked and all of that kind of stuff. So it's hard for me to say it, almost hard for me to believe, but these are a rare Ute now. Pretty hard to believe, isn't it? But it's true. It's true. You don't see them very often at all. What else can I tell you about it? So yeah, its biggest competition, the Falcon Ute. I think at the time that those were equals, this Ute walked all over that car. Obviously the Falcon Ute did catch up in the end, and it was much more of a fair fight. And this car, from 1989 all the way up into 2001, didn't really change much. It got an Ecotec, so a slightly different version of this, and right at the end they had a slightly different version of the Holden 5-litre, but the interior dash and everything changed to suit the VS run. But other than that, it pretty much stayed the same car for 11 years or whatever. The other thing as well that's worth noting is I've just been watching these videos on YouTube called Brockaholic, and it's all the promotional videos, or sorry, not the promotional, but all of the inside dealer videos for this car. And they were talking about this, and it's where this sat in the product line compared to a Rodeo. Also made me think, why do we say Rodeo and not Rodeo, but whatever. So yeah, this car, they mentioned in that video that, you know, when they're teaching salesmen to sell the VG, they want to make sure that they don't cannibalize their own product line and, you know, push people towards the Rodeo, that diesel light duty commercial, it's like steel tray Ute. And it's a really good idea, because I think this is a much better, you know, for your average bloke that just wants a nice car and he can throw some stuff in the back, this is a much better car than the Rodeo. But, you know, if you want something that's doing hard work, you probably would steer away from this a little bit. But it can do it. It can do it, and I think that this one has. But yeah, these are surprisingly fun to drive and surprisingly quick in the V6. V6, obviously a manual 5 litre would be my pick, and then if not, a manual V6. Unfortunately my Ute is a V6 auto. But yeah, this one is really cool. I really like it. You know, as the Utes progressed and these turned into VS's, they did start to come with things like cruise control. I believe that's really it, because there was never any luxury spec of the Ute. It was always base model, which this one, it was always base model or S-Pack. And unlike the sedans, you could find heaps of S-Pack 5 litres. And then right in the end, at the end of the line in the VS, they did do SS Utes, a really limited run. But, you know, if we're going back to VG, that's the other thing, is they didn't have that many colours. So this is a pretty rare colour for a VG, this sort of sky blue. I'm not sure exactly what you would call it. This is a really rare colour for the VG. The vast majority of these would have been white with the grey bars. But even finding those is pretty hard, because a lot of those cars were fleet vehicles, and they have not survived the test of time. A lot of them were probably crushed when nothing was wrong with them, or minor things. But this car drives as tight as a drum, honestly. It is quite bouncy because it's been lowered, but it's a great car. I really enjoy it, and I just know that when I post photos of this and that kind of stuff, people are going to absolutely love these. This is really my niche, this kind of car. And actually, just while we're winding up, I do have another story about a VG, and that is, we went to buy one, me and my mates. God, it would have been 7 or 8 years ago. And I have to admit that these Utes don't have a good societal reputation. You know, they're kind of known as burnout cars, and people drive stupid in them and stuff like that. And when we went to buy one, it was a cream, it was a really good spec Ute. It was cream, like that creamy, not white, sort of cream colour, 5-speed manual VG with the same interior as this. And we got there and the car was totally stuffed. We didn't bring a trailer because the bloke said it ran and drive. It was unregistered, but we're going to drive it home. So we didn't bring a trailer, and we got there and I popped the bonnet and there was no radiator hoses, there was no battery, and it had like 2 flat tyres, and there was belt slap all up the side. None of that stuff was in the photos, of course. And then we tried to start it. Oh, and the other thing is that the interior was ripped to shreds, so the bloke was so paranoid that people would steal his S-Pack interior that he'd attacked it with a knife. Could you believe that? I wouldn't unless I saw it with my own eyes. So he ripped apart his interior, and he was paranoid that people were watching him and going to steal his interior. Now let's remember, I mean, these are worth good money now, these seats, good because they're the same as an SS, but this was bloody 7 or 8 years ago. Those seats were probably worth nothing back then. So yeah, that's what you get. I'll pull over a second, and there is a little spot here where I can pull over safely, and we'll... Alright, it's time for a 0 to 100. Now, I'm not going to go insanely crazy because it's not my car, but now, that probably didn't look that fast on camera, but I can promise you it certainly felt fast, even if it wasn't. Just all the noise does push you back in your seat, and it's quite torquey, and for some reason you might have noticed the motor didn't really want to rev past 4, but again, I'm not going to push it, it's not my car. And yeah, it's just a really, really good example. Despite the paint, it's an honest car, it's quite patinaed, and again, a lot of these cars have been looked at as total garbage for, 20 years, if I'm honest. But I've always liked them, and I think that they're starting to get a bit of a cult following. I'm not saying it's worth big money, I'm not saying it's going to change the world, but people do like these cars, whether you like it or not. So yeah, this particular car is actually belongs to my mate that I'm sharing the shed with. So it will live in the shed along with some other VNs in this exact same colour. God, how terrible are the Victorian roads. Good God. Yeah, not bad for a 30-odd-year-old Ute. I really like these. 35 years old actually. Jesus. Not bad, the old Holden Ute. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed that video. It's not my ending that I normally do, but this Ute is having a few sleepovers here at the shed, and I really appreciate you guys for following along and sharing some of the cars that, you know, sharing a love, sorry, for some of the cars that I've had here, because they are fantastic. I've always liked VNs, I've always liked VGs, and I really appreciate everyone that has followed along and made this journey possible. If you guys like these kind of things, or if you like the VG as much as I do, then yeah, feel free to get in touch if you've got one that you'd like on the channel. Otherwise, thank you guys very much for liking and subscribing. I really appreciate it. I'm having a lot of fun doing this, I won't lie. It is pretty hard, but I am loving it. And I get to do things that I never would have thought I'd get to do in a million years, like drive this old Ute. So I really appreciate it, guys. And also a big thank you to Holdcom, which has reached out to me, and they are now a sponsor of the channel, which I'm so excited about. So if you guys use my code COMMAN, which I'll put on screen now, if you guys use that code, you get 5% off any product, and they're going to be helping out with some of the other projects in here, which, as you can see, there's no shortage of. And any help is very welcome. So I really a big thank you to them, and I'm so excited to get working on them, especially that VK. But before we do any of that, we do have a few more reviews coming. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching me, relive my P-plater days, and that's really what I'm doing with old girls like this. So thanks very much.